Greece doesn't have banks right now, or at least the banks aren't open. What's happening there? Can it happen here? Or what should Americans be scared about or interested in?
Well, it absolutely can happen here. In fact, it's happening here in a way in Puerto Rico, which is still here, right? It's part of the United States. It's not a state, but it's a territory. Puerto Ricans are American citizens. But what's happening in Greece and what's happening in Puerto Rico is going to happen in the United States. It's all about politicians who have promised more than their taxpayers can deliver. And they have all these obligations, whether it's to creditors or to voters in the form of pensions that have been promised, right? And Greece is broke. They can't pay. Puerto Rico, the governor of Puerto Rico just admitted that Puerto Rico cannot pay its bills, which is rare that a politician will be honest about the inability to pay bills. Because the reality is we're in worse shape than Puerto Rico. The debt to GDP there is only about 70%. Here it's over 100%, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the actual funded debt, the treasury obligations that are outstanding. But the reason that Puerto Rico is having to face the music, whereas we're still, dancing to it in the United States, is because interest rates have risen in Puerto Rico, and it's the higher rates that create the problem. That's what happened in Greece. When interest rates in Greece were still at record lows, the politicians could keep on borrowing and keep on pretending that they could pay it back. But once the Greek creditors began to question the solvency of Greece, they demanded higher interest rates. That's when Greece became insolvent. So the same situation is going to take place in the United States. The only reason that we can pretend that we're solvent is because interest rates are at zero. Right? The Fed has kept them at zero for 7 years. Long-term treasuries, the 10-year treasury yields about 2%. And under that scenario, the enormity of our debt is manageable, at least the interest payments. We can't possibly pay back the principal, but we can at least make those minimum interest payments. But the minute our creditors figure out that we're in the same position as Greece or Puerto Rico, they're going to demand higher rate of interest from us, and we can't pay either.
Greece is going to have to basically default, you think?
Of course. See, Greece can't print euros. So if they have to default. America can print dollars, so we don't have to default in actuality where we just don't pay. But what we can do is print money and pay people with worthless dollars. But that's the same result because our creditors don't get any purchasing power. And I would argue that defaulting through inflation, which is what it is when the central bank ends up monetizing the debt because the taxpayers, can't pay it. I think that's actually more damaging to the economy and to our creditors than a legitimate restructuring where you acknowledge your problem and then the creditors agree to accept less than full face value, and you also have reductions in government spending. You tell pensioners or people who have been promised various benefits from government that they can't get what they've been promised. They're going to have to get something less. Because if you pay everybody off by printing money, the real loss in purchasing power is even greater.
Cheery as always. Thank you very much, Peter Schiff. For Reason TV, I'm Matt Welch.